Hi, I'm Katie, host of Focus and Flourish podcast. I used to grind nonstop until I figured out how to automate my systems that ended up helping me achieve a 4-day work week. Now I earn more and work less. Want to do the same? Grab my free 6-figure strategy guide, which is the exact blueprint I used to grow my own business to where I am today. Link in the show notes. Are you new here? Tap subscribe to support the show and never miss an episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Focus and Flourish podcast. I must say I'm very excited about today's conversation. It's one I've been really looking forward to. And the reason is because we are going to go deeper than business strategy and really talk about who you are inside of your business. So if you feel like you're showing up and checking off the boxes, the to-do list, the constant grind, the supposed tos, but something still feels off inside, disconnected, or you're holding back from something, this episode is going to hit home for you. So I'm sitting down with Areyla Faeron, and she is a leadership coach and facilitator who basically helps people close the gap between, who they're presenting to the world, essentially, and who they actually are, and stepping into that. And what I love about her is that this is just not surface level. We are just going to dive right in today. So I want to share a bit about Areyla before we kind of interview and have our conversation. So she has spent 25 years as a creative in performance, an actor, a dancer. She was even a clown at one point. And it makes so much sense if you take that past and see what she does now once we dive in. So at the core of her work is the ability to read what's really happening beneath the surface, which led her to where she is today. And so this isn't just in the creative world with people, in rooms, in systems, in business, in strategy, in creativity, right? So over the past decade, when she made her transition, she's facilitated over 800 workshops and coached leaders across Fortune 500 companies, big industries, a wide variety of industries, and, tech, healthcare, creative entrepreneurs. And she's helping them communicate powerfully and step into their voice and actually lead with presence, which is oftentimes really challenging as a creative because you start with a hobby that becomes a business, right? So because yes, here in this podcast, we do talk about systems, we talk about self-care, and we talk about strategy. But none of that works if you're disconnected from yourself. And that's why I wanted to bring Areyla onto this podcast. So if you're playing small, if you're second guessing your voice, if your business looks successful on the outside, but it's not in alignment with who you are, this conversation is going to be a really wonderful missing piece for you, hopefully very inspirational. So we are going to talk about the tension of being both the artist and the CEO, which will resonate with everyone here. What it actually looks like when women are playing smaller than what they're actually capable of, and how to step into a level of presence and power that not only changes your business, but your entire life, because our businesses are a direct reflection of our core values and where we are in our lives, right? So this is one of those conversations that's going to make you pause and reflect and potentially listen twice and maybe see yourself in a new way. So as always, we will have all links in the show notes and all of the information there. But Areyla, welcome. I'm so happy to have you on.
Thank you so much. That was such a generous, warm welcome. I'm so
good.
To be here.
Well, I'm really excited, and I had a hard time narrowing down, what are we really going to dive into today? And so I thought what we would start with, which makes the most sense, is the fact that you work with creative entrepreneurs. You work with the audience that's, here today listening to this episode. So people who are simultaneously the artist and the CEO, right? What's the most common place that you see the tension kind of break down? And what does it actually sort of take to hold both, would you say? The artistry, the creativity, plus that like more masculine CEO, like I've got this vibe.
Yeah. I mean, this is such a meaningful question, right? And we all experience this in our own deeply personal ways. And really holding both of those hats at the same time is something that every artist that's the situation everybody's in. And I came up professionally coaching women in the arts specifically. Like that was really who I worked with for years. And my whole heart is just with I am a woman in the arts. This has been my life.
Right.
And I remember, so that tension for me, something really stuck out when I read an article in the Harvard Business Review. This was years ago. And I was leading a workshop for actors. And so I was coaching actors in an acting school in Los Angeles. And it was about personal and professional development for actors. And what I kept hearing was this struggle between being the CEO and the visionary, creative, sensitive artist. And I remember reading this article in Harvard Business Review, and it talked about the most successful CEOs and what were the skills that the most successful CEOs had. And it was pinned against the most successful executive assistants. And these skills that were so different of a visionary CEO who's driving strategy, and then the executive assistant who's always in the detail. And what I started to think was so many artists getting really, really stuck in sending a tiny email, checking off these little boxes and not spending time really in the strategy and vision of their business. And so that difference between working in your business and working on your business. And that was something that really struck me. It was so many people always, that was in the film industry. And so it was always auditioning or always trying to learn the lines or always trying to email the casting directors or take the workshops, but not really thinking about, what do I want? What strategy am I driving? Who is the person running this business? And what does this person value? How does this person work? We don't all work the same. I think business is one of the most creative things out there. So if we're not thinking about, who am I as the business owner? How do I work? What are my strengths? What is my vision? And we're just always grinding. I would just see that really, really, really eat at people and anxiety.
Yes.
And I'm seeing you say yes.
And then burnout, and then full freeze. It's awful. It's a cycle that's all too common.
It's all too common. And so for me, something that I think is so, so, so important is having mirrors and having support systems. I think it's very difficult to have accurate, to build strategy and feel held and feel supported and be able to be vulnerable in public, which being an artist is being vulnerable in public. Not everyone's cut out for that. And so having the support system, the right mirrors, the right guides, the right mentors, I think it's invaluable. And then I'm also a huge fan of just carving out time for deep self-reflection. I am a journaler. I'm a lifelong journaler. but I think that, being an artist and being an artist in business requires rigorous self-reflection all the time.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And when you were talking about vision and values, that's just such a strong, huge foundation of what I teach as well. Because if you're just constantly typing, grinding, you're not thinking 2, 5, 10 years out. How can this business create and reflect the lifestyle I desire and how I want to feel, right? And I know sometimes there's that feast or famine, oftentimes in the creative world, people get into this feast or famine sort of mindset, and it's very hard to get off that hamster wheel. And so I'm curious, I knew when I needed to deepen my understanding and hire a coach and get support and all of that because of burnout. So I'm curious because you've worked with so many creative entrepreneurs, I'm curious, what message would you put out to people who do feel like they're on the brink? What are some great resources for people right now, that they could actionably take to kind of start this path of rediscovery?
Well, I love that. I mean, you're talking about burnout, and burnout happens in many ways, right? It can happen, you're talking about mindset, it can happen to our mind, it happens to our bodies. And I think as far as resources, there are resources as far as links that I can give you, but there's also just resources that are accessible all the time. You don't have to
Yeah,
go.
that's what I want to talk about.
Yeah, you don't have to go anywhere.
We don't need any more links.
You don't need another person, right? I mean, so when I think about this, is even just so silly. I was leading a session yesterday for some senior execs, and it was a fintech company, and we were talking about executive presence and communication. But we actually just spent a long time on breathing. And so something that I even just think about is one of my most fundamental practices that, I mean, I think simple is often the most difficult, but is just soft belly breathing. And so something that I do all the time is I just come in contact with my chair. I mean, it's almost silly, but I come into contact with my chair. I notice the support. I come into like physical awareness of the support, and I soften my abdomen. We hold so much ambient tension in our abdomen by constantly being engaged. We engage our bodies without realizing our bodies are engaged. And
Right.
we get tired. And so just softening our abdomen and doing some soft belly breathing, that was one of my main practices for an entire year, Katie. And I could not believe that after a year of just softening my belly, and it was all the time that I had to think about it, I was more awake. I was more refreshed. I was more available. I didn't have, my nervous system was just more accustomed to being awake during the day. It was so simple.
That's wonderful. Also, that's such a great example of a habit that anyone can build. And it's a small, easy, attainable thing to do. And with consistency can actually have big results. So yeah, I could go on
Well,
and
I mean,
on, but
well, something there I just want to name because I think that that's something that happens a lot with, especially those of us that are really into ideation and big ideas and grandiosity and going, wanting to maximize everything. Something that I think about a lot is tipping point behaviors. And so a tipping point behavior is something that is the tiniest micro change that you can make that has the biggest impact. And
right.
so, for those of us that are really into big ideas, that's really challenging. It's its own skill to be able to really scaffold down the tiniest micro change we can make that's going to have the biggest impact. And so,
Yes.
that's a way that I really think about also when we're in this world of burnout. What are the tiniest changes that we can make? I used to spend 5 minutes every morning looking at the sky. It was the tiniest
There
thing
you
I could
go.
do while the coffee brewed. And after a few months, it was like my brain worked differently.
It's incredible. I want to start talking about James Clear, his book Atomic Habits, because I really loved it. Yes, small daily changes, but let's go a little deeper because obviously I hope that people can just say, what would work for me on that? Like maybe it's doing stretching for 5 minutes a day. Maybe, it might look different for everyone, but we all know that our breath, connects to our muscles, which connect to our brain, which connects to our nervous system. So it's an easy place to start. I'm going to start. You've inspired me. So you talk about just within your work in general, you talk about helping women play bigger and claim their voice, which I love because I'm all about it. So what does playing smaller actually look like? Like, why do so many accomplished women and men in our society do this without realizing it?
I mean, there's a lot of reasons why. And I think without, over indexing on the reasons why, I want to just talk about what it looks like. What is it? And
Yeah.
what can we do about it? And I think one of the biggest ways that we, especially as women, do this is we really hedge in our communication. And so a communication hedge is something that takes the power out of what you're saying. An example of a communication hedge is when we over apologize, when we say I'm sorry, or when we say I think instead of just
Right.
jumping right into what our point is, or when we add too many words to an email or a text and we don't really step into powerful communication. It's really edgy to step into powerful communication. And those are all ways that really get in between us and fully expressing ourselves. And so another way that it looks is just we have so much self-doubt. There's so much self-doubt, and there's a lot about imposter syndrome, and then it was called imposter phenomenon, and whether it's real or whether it's not, and reasons why. And there's a few talks that are extraordinary about it that I would love to just share with you. But being able to play, I think playing smaller is really staying really comfortable. And there's a payoff to staying comfortable.
Yes.
There's a payoff to it. We do it with good reason. And things work until they don't. One of my favorite leadership ideas is what got you here won't get you there. And so that
I love that.
Yeah.
Repeat.
What got you here won't get you there. And it's a book title, and it's brilliant. The idea really being that there's a lot of things that we do that are successful. They lead to success, and they get us to a certain level of success. They work. We get positive reinforcement for them. But when we get to a certain level of success, those very same behaviors that we're doing are the same things that then hold us back from getting to the next level.
Yes.
So it takes, again, I'll come back to this idea of like rigorous self-honesty and awareness of being able to understand what are the things that got me here that now at this certain level are the very things that are holding me back. And so if, for example, being super, super like nice and compromising our power to be likable, which is a primal instinct. We are tribes people. We need to belong. We need to be liked to survive. Like There are very real reasons why we do that. But then if we're actually now at a place in our business or in our artistry where we need to be bold and we need to take big swings and we need more visibility, or we have new ideas that require risk taking.
Right.
The ways that we've played safe are the very ways that are going to hold us back from getting to the next tier. And we need to know
that is so beautifully said. Yes. And the thing is we cannot know what those things are if we're not grounding down and being honest with ourselves and actually doing those small things that help bring us home. I experienced it really intensely for a series of years of and what is so interesting, I just am going on a slight tangent, is COVID happened and I was having our first baby and very aware of just the lack of stability at that time. And when I began building my course, I was so hyper focused in a great way. I was very grounded. I was walking every day and I really loved discovering that I'm more of an introvert than I realized. Yeah. And so I did get really clear during that time, the beginning of the pandemic, during a pregnancy. It was the perfect time to go within. And so I paced myself, I took better care of myself, and I came out with this product that I'd built and been scared to do after one-on-one coaching sessions and just things that were burning me out, repeating the same behaviors over and over. And what's so interesting about what you just said to me is that I repeated that, or I tried to repeat that exact behavior in my pregnancy with our second child in 2023. And the circumstances were different. I was a new woman. I was a new human being. I had a family, and it did not work. Yeah. I ended up hitting walls, making decisions not from my heart, but what I think I should do, working with people that weren't aligned with my core values to try to get things going faster rather than being in alignment. And luckily, it didn't last very long. I learned, I grew, and I got very clear on that wouldn't work anymore. But that's such a wonderful example of what got you here won't get you there, that we are ever evolving, not only artists, but people. And so it's this constant parallel of keeping our core values as human beings in alignment with our creative work and our business, which is really hard to do.
Yes.
And so it has to be, in my opinion, defined, right? And so as an example, in Momentum Method, we don't go into any systems or strategy. The entire first part of the program is about mindset and your vision. And I'm not talking about a business plan. I'm talking about, what do you want? What are the things you really want? And the only reason that I ended up doing this is because that's what someone did with me 12 years ago. And it's I was reaching out for mentorship and support, and I can't imagine my life without it. But that person said, well, what do you really want? Let's do 2, 5, 10 years. And it's like, I always wanted to have kids. I always wanted a partner. I always wanted stability, safety, a wonderful home, community, work-life balance. And I was very clear that I did not want to be shooting that much and being in my extroverted, creative, embodied self. Even though I'm good at it, I was doing it too much, like 5 shoots in a row, Monday through, like way too much. So I really want to dive into that because you also mentioned vision in the beginning. And it's like, I think that photographers and creatives get really overwhelmed by like a business plan because they think it has to look a certain way. But everyone listening here, I really encourage you actually to just do these prompts. What do you want for yourself as a human being? Where do you envision yourself in 2 years? And this is a wave, the magic wand situation. This is no bound, like this is really go to what you want. Mm-hmm. Where do you want to be in 2 years, 5 years, and 10? Because what then happens is our brain starts to be in alignment with the way that we set up what we want, and our actions and the work we take and the things that we put up with or do start to be in alignment. And the craziest part of everything is that I followed it. Mm-hmm. I said, I was going to like wedding photographer workshops, all like Vegas, this, that, learning all the things. And I was like, I really want to be at WPPI. I really want to become an educator someday. I really want to get to the place where I've got enough of a formula that works for self-care and strategy. And so everybody here, it's like, this is the perfect opportunity to sit down, ground down, breathe, and pretend you could have anything in the world and go 2, 5, and 10 years out. And that can really support you in what to focus in on the now. That can be your business plan. Your vision can be your business plan. And I also encourage people to jot down their core values as human beings. For example, honesty, community, diversity, whatever they are. Print them out, put them by your computer, and make sure that every business move you make is in alignment with your core values that are from you as a human being. I just wanted to go on that tangent because I think these exercises are what actually start to affect our brain chemistry in a way that helps us grow and step out of the small and be able to be a little bit bigger. Because if in 2 years you want to have a family and be making $285,000, you better get real strategic.
Well, and
right?
You're absolutely. I mean, you have to have, what's the North Star? And I think what happens so often, again, I'll go back to that idea of working in the business versus on the business, is we spend so much time, we're so passionate about our craft, we don't spend the time on the strategy. And the strategy is so daunting. We use business jargon and it gets really daunting. Where, often we can be allergic to anything that sounds businessy in the arts. And so thinking about it, I just wanted to offer, I think sometimes it's hard to know what you want. Not everybody has the clarity. You were gifted with that clarity. I've worked with a lot of people who don't have language for it yet. Mm-hmm. We don't have the words, or if we have them, they're deep inside, and it's really scary to name what we want. There's something, when being able to declare what we want is potentially terrifying. And so there's a few things that I wanted to just share that you can drop in the show notes that I think are really helpful. I did a lot of training with Tara Moore, who's an extraordinary coach, and she wrote the book Playing Big. And she has a visualization that's a 20-minute visualization that gets you 20 years in the future and just really helps you. And it's called the Inner Mentor Visualization. And I use it with almost all of my clients. I mean, I've used it with so many of my clients for years. I've myself done it, I think, 3 different times. I've given it to my husband, Alex. Like it's wonderful.
I would love for you to share that with me. That sounds very aligned with what we're talking about today.
And it's about finding that inner mentor in yourself and being able to just get supported in finding that language and then being able to be led from within.
Yeah. You just mentioned the North Star. After we had our second baby, Levi, who's now 2, I've hit a new wall of understanding of myself, of like what I have the capacity for and what gives me energy, what drains my energy, those types of things. So I took a bold leap and hired a really incredible systems, and she was so much more than business. It was systems, strategy, funnels, like teaching me how to do the things that scare me the most. But then on top of it, mom of four, entrepreneur, self-made, very, very, very grounded energy, has her own daily rituals, has gone on her own personal empowerment journey. And I was just like, I need a coach. And this was recently. And so it gets very taboo in our society. But what my bottom was feeling so on top of things by the end of my pregnancy with my son. And then everything changed again. And I didn't have enough understanding of what a second child was going to do to change things ahead of time. I feel like I did a great job with baby number one. And then I had to bring someone on in an intimate way. I told her everything about me in our first call of where I was, what we were doing. And literally she came into my business. She had access to everything. And then part of the process, it was 4 months ago, got overwhelming. I was still in the CEO role. And the biggest thing I've ever done in my business of relinquishing control and growing past my next barrier was I introduced my coach to my virtual assistant. And I said, please CC me on all emails. I would like her to execute this project. And we launched a new funnel and a new program, a new training, all of which I worked very hard on and then realized I was trying to do all of it. And the only reason I ended up going that direction, which felt like a lot of money at the time, having, grown our family, was because I keep going back to your quote, but I was like, what I did to get here is no longer going to work. I cannot be on a call until 4 because our caretaker leaves at 4. I cannot work more hours to make more dollars. That is just not where I am. And so it's fascinating because I don't think it's easy to stay grounded and really in touch with yourself when you have a new baby. And I think a lot of people here have fears of having kids or know they want them. And how is my business going to sustain, through it? And part of it is I will say getting those systems in place, but you can't get the systems in place until you're in alignment with what you want. Right. And so that's why I want to encourage everyone to, listen to this 20-minute, 20-year guided that Areyla is talking about. And also, I want you guys to head to her Substack. She has co-created a program called Vital, and it's a series about women's aliveness and vitality. Absolutely incredible. I'm a follower. And so I really encourage people here to check that out because this was a deeper conversation than some of the podcast episodes I have. So Areyla, I'm just curious before we wrap, it's like, what does vitality mean to you? Why does it matter? And specifically with the world in the place that it is today, why does it matter right now, right here and now?
Something that I've always thought about, I come from a family of activists. And so you're really, you're naming the context of the world. And I think everything has to do with context. We always have to place ourselves. We have to locate ourselves. The circumstances matter. And when I think about vitality, if I can support people to feel more vital, then that person who's connected with their own inner vitality is going to make healthier and more peaceful choices in their life.
Yes.
And so for me, anchoring on holistic vitality is my way of participating in the global conversation. And I get to do that by having conversations like these. I deeply believe in artists. I believe in the arts. I believe in the power of the arts to heal and to uplift and to create beauty in the world, which is absolutely necessary for the heartbeat of humanity.
Yes.
And so for me, vitality, and we all experience vitality in different ways. And that's part of what Vital is. It's a research project. Vital is a research project discovering what is vitality. And so for me, I'm learning. I'm a student. I'm such a student of life. I'm a
Yeah,
student of
you
vitality.
are.
Right? I'm a big student
Yep.
of vitality. But that is what anchors me in it.
I love hearing it personally from you because my experience with Vital has been, oh, I'm just joining a newsletter situation, whatever. And then every time I've actually just paused and really taken in the content that you and Danya do, I'm very touched. So everyone here, I'm going to be putting Vital Women, their Substack in the show notes. Highly recommend signing up. And guess what? It's not spammy. It's fantastic. It's perfectly spread out in this noisy society. And the last comment I want to make is, so right now, to everyone listening, the world has never, ever been noisier. You open up Instagram and people are telling you what you should be doing. And you go to your email and you thought you unsubscribed from something, but it's still there because things are happening that are unethical right now. And so I encourage everyone here to take an audit over the next week of what is draining you and what is making you feel good. And sort of pair that with your vision exercise, because I am at a point where I have had to turn over my Instagram to my virtual assistant, and I do all of the content in one day, and I am trying to be on social media as little as possible, but the world would never know that because my virtual assistant is posting on every single platform all the time, but it doesn't mean we need to be, and that is my version of playing big. Is protecting my peace, knowing what's stressing me out. And trust me, God, I get stressed and I'm not perfect, but really, I really audited myself and it was the biggest energy suck. And so my mantra is compare and despair and stay in alignment. And 2, 5, and 10 years from now is a great place to start. Areyla, I would love to continue this conversation and have a second episode sometime. Please. Thank you so much for being here. It was really beautiful and really needed with just the context of the world right now and the arts, creativity, feminine leadership. So I appreciate you sharing all of your wisdom with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here, and definitely check out the show notes and the blog post, and I will see you in 2 weeks.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share it on your favorite social media platforms. Whether it's Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn, your share can help someone improve their photography business and their life. Use the hashtag Focus and Flourish podcast so we can see your posts and connect with you there.